Let's be real. March Madness is going on. The NBA is approaching the playoffs. We'll do a little playoff segment here in the next couple of weeks because my Warriors are in it. They just lost a heartbreaker tonight, but we'll be back. Hopefully, Steph, please come back. It's my Steph Curry episode. I need you to come back. Episode 30, right? But the best sports story in the last month, through March Madness, through the NFL offseason, which has been absolutely insane, through the MLB lockout, St. Peter's. St. Peter's is America's ultimate feel-good story. You know when you watch a sports movie for the first time and you feel good because that underdog team, the Mighty Ducks, Coach Carter's Richmond High School, whoever it is, scored that game-winning bucket to send the team to the state championship or whatever the hell the storyline is of the sports movie. St. Peter's is the best freaking story in sports. It is awesome. I am so surprised that this even happened. I mean, this is crazy. So for those of you that don't know, like there's probably a lot of people who are like, St. Peter's are you talking about like the Roman Catholic Church? What the hell are you on? Okay, let's talk about it, right? So I talked about favorite sports movies coming to life and how St. Peter's is the actual representation of that. I mean, here's the thing. St. Peter's, for those of you that don't know, is the 15th St. Peter's, for those of you that don't know, is a low-tier Division I basketball program located in Jersey City. Okay? They're kind of a low-tier program. They've had a lot of disasters strike their program. They don't win a lot of games. They're not known for their basketball program in particular. When you talk about Division I basketball, you talk about 5 schools. You talk about probably Arizona, Baylor right now, North Carolina, Duke, and Kentucky, right? Those are the 5 that come to mind for me. And there's obviously Gonzaga's in there. There's obviously a few more powerhouse schools. St. Peter's is not one of those powerhouse schools. St. Peter's is the type of school where the Division I athletes that go there to play D1 for 4 years, collect their degree because they're getting a full ride, and then go out into the corporate world and work a normal job while just, as an afterthought on their resume, writing D1 basketball player for 4 years. That is who the players at St. Peter's are. They're not the biggest known. They're not being recruited by the NBA. It's not really a big program. And so this small program somehow found themselves on the national stage of the March Madness tournament, and they found a way to beat Kentucky, which is about powerhouse schools, one of the 5 powerhouse schools that I mentioned in college basketball. And then they found a way to beat another good team in Murray State. And then they found another way to beat Purdue. And they took out 2 basketball powerhouses to get to be in the final 8 teams within the tournament. And yes, they lost to North Carolina. But let's get into their story, because this isn't your normal Cinderella story, right? In March, when it comes to the March Madness basketball tournament, it's single elimination. So you tend to get a lot of upsets, and you tend to get a lot of small schools that suddenly get burst into the spotlight for, playing well and beating a team that they weren't expected to beat, right? And it's awesome. America loves that. America loves the underdog story. The world loves underdogs. It's the truth. But St. Peter's, their story really starts before the NCAA tournament, because they were losing a bunch of games in about December. And they had to win I think it was like 8 or 9 straight games to even make the NCAA tournament as that 15 seed. So to make it to where they are, they had to win a bunch of win a bunch of games to only get drawn against Kentucky, who is one of the basketball powerhouses. And the thing about St. Peter's is that they aren't like your Division I school. A lot of Division I schools, a lot of D1 basketball programs get a lot of resources, right? They have a bunch of like boosters who provide them with like great facilities, great basketballs, like good practice times, better athletic dorms. Like the athletes are treated like kings. You go to any big Division I school campus, the athletes are treated like literal kings. Their dorms are like apartments. They get special food. They get special privileges on campus. They're not like real students in a lot of the powerhouse schools, because a lot of these guys are just this college experience is a one-stop shop before they go to the league. And for St. Peter's, that's not the case. The guys who play for St. Peter's play there for 4 years because they just love basketball that much. They just love the sport. And most of the kids that commit to schools like St. Peter's, they're the kids that would, like, even if they weren't D1, they'd probably be hooping at the YMCA and just having fun. Like, that's the type of people that they are. It's high character individuals that just want to play basketball for playing basketball. It's not for the money. It's not for the fame. It's not for any power or name brand that you may get out of an SEC school. It's nothing. It's nothing like that. And the resources that the program of St. Peter's had. Let's talk about the resources they had, because they didn't have very many. It's probably equivalent to that of an underfunded high school. Their gym used to have like a leaky floor. There would be like the whole athletic facilities, like they all shared a locker room. So like the visiting team would be like changing into their basketball uniforms, and they'd just see like the swimmers walk out of the practice pool into the locker room to take showers. Like, it's crazy. They were underfunded as hell. And let's put this in a money perspective, right? So one of the powerhouse schools that I talked about earlier was Kentucky, the school that St. Peter's beat in the first round. Their head coach is named John Calipari. He's known as one of the best head coaches in all of college basketball. John Calipari is the head coach of Kentucky, and he makes $8.5 million a year. $8.5 million a year. That's a crazy amount of money, right? The whole St. Peter's basketball team, the whole team. So like how much, everybody's coaches, players, assistants, whatever. All the expenses that they went through this year, all the expenses like travel, food, whatever expenses come with running a Division I college basketball team, $1.5 million. So $1.5 million is what the whole team spent, is what was spent on the whole team. I'm talking like paying coaches, paying assistants, equipment, facilities, travel, whatever. 1.5 million, which is $7 million less than just the head coach of Kentucky's salary per year. St. Peter's had a bunch of unpaid assistants too. In the past, they've had a bunch of unpaid assistants who were guys who basically worked 50, 60 hours a week, helping with the head coach and like helping design plays and all of these things. And they didn't even get free college classes, because a lot of these unpaid assistants, like, they pay you an education, but they didn't even get the free graduate degree. They were just helping out for 40 to 50 hours a week. And to make ends meet, they would substitute teach at the local high school, and they would, ref the CYO games that would go on the weekends. Like, this is truly like an underdog story. In addition to all of this stuff, right? You had the unpaid assistants. The offices of the coaches were they were flooded. They were constantly flooded. Like the roof of the particular like place where it was at was leaky all the time. And so like when they'd walk in after like a really rainy day, like there would be like an inch of water on the floor. And apparently that was like routine for St. Peter's. Okay. Like this would continue to happen. There's pictures, and there's a lot of people on Twitter that have verified this who have worked for the team in the past. And the basketballs were like stolen really frequently because it's in Jersey City. And a lot of the students like would use the same facilities that the athletes would use, and they would take the basketballs, and they would steal equipment from the team and all of these things. Like there's so many stuff. It's a rough time, right? Compare that to like an Alabama football program where they get their own locker room, they get their own private chefs to cook their food, right? St. Peter's is not that. But there's two names that I want to shout out for changing this program. Shaheen Holloway and Doug Eddard. We're going to talk about Doug Eddard in a second, but I want to talk about Shaheen Holloway for a second. So Shaheen Holloway is basically the coach of St. Peter's. He's the head basketball coach, and he's had the most success that St. Peter's has seen in a long time. So much so that literally today, as of like 6 hours ago, he was hired by the better Division I school in New Jersey, Seton Hall, to coach their team full time. So he got vultured from St. Peter's because everyone saw like what a great job he did with all the lack of resources that we discussed earlier, that he got hired at Seton Hall, which is like the college basketball school in New Jersey. So that being said, right? So the coach, like he was the coach that had the most success at St. Peter's for a long time. He built this program. He recruited all of these players. He like slowly started by like renovating the office, like renovating the gyms, making sure the facilities were good for the basketball players. And it's gotten a lot better from where it was. Their arena right now can see like it's nothing compared to like some of the bigger arenas in college basketball, but it's there. And they're slowly building it up. And so a lot of this change was spearheaded by him and the athletic director at St. Peter's as well. And one of the main ways that they've been able to kind of accelerate this process is through the recruiting process, because in college basketball, you don't pay players, right? You don't pay them anything. You don't pay them any money. Like it's nothing related to money because you can't, it's illegal. So a lot of what you have to do is recruit these players, and a lot of recruitment takes place by like visiting their houses, talking to their parents, talking to them, and connecting with them. So much so that they believed that they could play there. And he was such a vital part in that because he was such an enigmatic coach that would attract the local talent. And a lot of these schools, right? I'm talking like the SEC powerhouse schools, the schools that are, the number 1 and the number 2 seeds. They have the money to like fly all over the country and find the best basketball players in high school and recruit them to their teams. St. Peter's doesn't have the money to do that. St. Peter's barely had the money to like have a bus to drive 30 miles to go to New Jersey, right? So the only people, or to go within cities of New Jersey, like the only people that they could really recruit were people in their local area. So I'm talking Jersey and New York, and any other recruits that they got were like bonus. Like that was just like a cream on top of the ice cream. So, or cream, that's just cream rising to the top there. So that's kind of what they were working with. You're working with dealing with a lot of athletes who are from Jersey City, who are from New York, and basically anything that you can get from your local area. And the best ones were obviously handpicked, were obviously taken away by the best schools. And so you're kind of left with the quote unquote bargain bin of players. So Holloway really had to work with that. And their recruiting process, basically it's been described by like a bunch of scouts as like outworking everyone, finding all the recruits early, making sure that they were comfortable with Shaheen Holloway, and that he was able to kind of sell them St. Peter's more so than ever. But Shaheen Holloway changed the program, right? And he's at Seton Hall now. He got a big job for the reason that they recognized the immense adversities that he had to go through to even build this program to get to the Elite Eight. But let's look at the whole St. Peter's run from a player perspective, because there's this guy by the name of Doug Eddard who is an absolute stud. This man is a star. He is kind of like the Cinderella, like he kind of epitomizes like what the Cinderella story is. I mean, on the surface, this kid looks like a white kid I went to high school with, right? He looks like he looks like some random, like just dude off the street in New Jersey. But this man, like before this tournament even started, in January, was just probably your average Joe. He's from Nutley, New Jersey. God knows where the hell Nutley is. He's from Nutley. Okay. He went to Bergen Catholic High School. God knows where that is. And he's a criminal justice major, right? So he's just this kid who's probably like, like I'm a year away from getting my criminal justice degree. Maybe I'm going to go on to law school, all of these things. And a month later, now he's the swagged out white boy that's taken everybody's heart who watches college basketball. Everybody loves this kid, Dougie Eater. Like everyone's like, damn, like, and he for St. Peter's, he was like his role on the team was like he was the sharpshooter. He was the spark plug off the bench. He would get a quick bucket here and there. And he's a consistent shooter, and he made a lot of timely buckets throughout this run that St. Peter's had all the way to the Elite Eight. And by the way, St. Peter's is the first 15 seed in NCAA history to make the Elite Eight. So that makes this run all the more improbable, right? He's one of the stars. There's a couple others on St. Peter's as well. Daryl Banks, Casey and Defo, a couple others. I don't want to forget anybody, but there are a few. But Eater is the one that's really attracted like the attention of the national media. Like this is the guy. Like he's like the Joe Burrow of St. Peter's. He's like, that's kind of the perfect comparison for him. Is like he is the Joe Burrow. He's like that swagged out white kid that everybody loves. That who's got that like energy that you just attract to. He's got a certain swagger on the court. He's fun to watch. He shoots the ball, so he's flashy, like all of that stuff. He's the flashy kid that everyone likes to watch. And he's also got this really funky personality. And that was kind of revealed through a couple ESPN interviews that he did. Apparently he doesn't like eat sandwiches. He's like a super picky eater and all of these things. And that went kind of viral all over the internet before St. Peter's played their Elite Eight game. But he's someone who's like super fun to watch. I mean, his reactions on the court are great. There's like the viral picture of him like sticking his tongue out. He's got a fat mustache. Like he's just he seems like a really fun guy. And I just like it. I like his personality a lot. And I just wanted to say this personally from the bottom of my heart. After I researched this team and just like looked at everything, Doug Edert, Shaheen Holloway, and the entire St. Peter's roster is invited to come on the Changavi show whenever they would like. I'm just saying that right now. Okay, Dougie, before you become like a big star in the NBA, I would love to have your interview. Shaheen Holloway, before you start killing it at Seton Hall, come on to the show, baby. Let's do it. Let's make some noise. Nah. Dougie Eater is absolutely invited on to the show. I loved watching him. The whole St. Peter's team. I would love to have all the boys on the show. I loved watching y'all. This is like one of the best underdog stories I've ever seen in my life. Just so fun. And I think here's the thing that endears me the most about this whole underdog story is these kids probably like go from like beating Kentucky in overtime one weekend to Tuesday morning being in Psych 103 and studying for their midterm. Like, I think it's just like the craziest underdog story ever, right? Like, these are literal college kids. They're me and you. And they're getting degrees and they're probably working to get good grades in their classes and eventually, become productive members of society, hopefully. And, they probably party. They're just normal kids. And Doug Edert is like 2 months older than me, right? He's 21. I think he's like September 2000. I'm October. So, or August 2000. I'm October. I forget what it was. I read his whole bio on St. Peter's athletic website. But he's probably studying for midterms. I mean, and I heard this story too, like when Steph was talking about his March Madness run at Davidson, because he played for a pretty small mid-major Division I school as well. And they kind of went on a little bit of a run his junior year. And before the game, like right before their Sweet 16 game or something, where they were playing Georgetown, which is like a really good school at the time, like they were all like in a hotel room, like with their clunky laptops, just like cramming for the accounting midterm that was going to happen on Monday. So it was just like the way that these underdog stories work, particularly with like these small D1 programs, because like in the big D1 programs, like everyone's all about sports, right? It's like you're literally playing professionally. You're going from school, you're going to play school to school. Like you don't really give a shit about your grades because most of the kids at Duke and Kentucky and Arizona are really going to be there for 1 to 2 years. So they don't really care about their college degree because they know they're going to go to the league and make $15 million. Like that doesn't matter to them. But this underdog story is the best because these kids like actually have to care about school and all of these things. So I just find that really, really cool. I love their story. I love their vibe. I just love like how much of an underdog story it is because it truly is that way. And I just want people to like recognize the fact that this is such a dope story. And I hope that other people recognize that too, because it's a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun just looking at them. I smile every time I talk about St. Peter's because they're a fun team to they were a fun team to cover, and they're a fun team to look at now in retrospect. I mean, listen, there have been a lot of Cinderella teams to the NCAA March Madness tournament. And I've been alive for a few, like Florida Gulf Coast had their crazy run with Dunk City and all that. UCLA's had a couple deep runs, but they're a big school, but they've had a couple deep runs as like a low seed. Like watching low seeds make it all the way to the, later stages of the tournament is always cool. But it's, but this is just, I mean, this was beyond cool. Like this was just freaking awesome to watch this whole thing go down with St. Peter's. This was great. And so shout out to all the St. Peter's kids. Y'all are invited on the show anytime you want. Please, Doug Edert, you would make my day if you responded to this and said you wanted to be on the show. We can get on IG Live, whatever you want, bro. Just come on the show.